Something feels different about what the Dolphins are doing right now. While most fans are focused on the stars, the biggest headlines, and the players expected to make an impact this season, Miami keeps making quiet moves behind the scenes that could reveal a much bigger plan. And the latest signing has already started raising questions about what this coaching staff is really trying to build along the offensive line. Is this just another training camp body? Or did the Dolphins find a player that other teams overlooked? The more you look into this move, the more interesting it becomes. Especially because it comes at a time when Miami's roster is nearly set and every addition feels intentional. And there's another storyline developing that might be even more surprising, a player attempting one of the most difficult position changes in all of football. If it works, it could become one of the most fascinating under-the-radar stories of the entire offseason. Before we get into all the details, smash that like button and subscribe if you're excited to see what this Dolphins team can become in 2026. And let me know in the comments. Fins up! Playoffs loading. If you're optimistic that Miami is finally building the depth needed to make a serious run this season, the Miami Dolphins have officially made another roster move, continuing what has been a surprisingly active stretch of transactions during the quieter portion of the offseason. The team recently announced the signing of offensive lineman Waddle, a player who spent the 2026 spring football season with the Houston Gamblers in the UFL. At first glance, this may look like the type of move that flies completely under the radar. After all, we're talking about a player who entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent and has yet to establish himself on an active regular season roster. But when you start looking deeper into the timing of the move and the situation surrounding Miami's offensive line, it becomes a much more intriguing story. One reason fans immediately began paying attention is because this signing came shortly after Miami made changes involving other offensive linemen on the roster. Whenever a team removes players at one position and then quickly adds another player at that same position, it usually suggests there is a specific plan being put into motion. The Dolphins clearly believe there is something worth exploring here. Age's football journey has been far from conventional. After playing college football at Maryland, he entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent in 2024. Like many undrafted players, his path became a constant battle to stay in the league. He spent time with both the Las Vegas Raiders and the Philadelphia Eagles organization, primarily working on practice squads and attempting to prove he belonged. Unfortunately for him, a permanent NFL opportunity never materialized. Instead of giving up, he took a route that more and more players have started using in recent years. He joined spring football and signed with the Houston Gamblers in the UFL. That decision may have ended up saving his professional career. The UFL has increasingly become a developmental pipeline for NFL teams looking for overlooked talent. Every year players use the league to put fresh tape together, show improvements in their game, and earn another opportunity at the highest level. That appears to be exactly what happened here. What's fascinating about Age's profile is that he doesn't necessarily fit the mold of some of the offensive linemen Miami has targeted recently. When evaluating the offensive linemen added by the Dolphins this offseason, a pattern begins to emerge. Miami has placed emphasis on bigger, stronger players capable of generating movement at the line of scrimmage. Physicality has become a major point of emphasis under the current leadership group. Age is a little different. Rather than standing out because of overwhelming size or power, his biggest strengths appear to be his athleticism and movement skills. Throughout the evaluation process coming out of college, his testing numbers showed impressive mobility for a player at his position. That raises an important question. What exactly do the Dolphins see in him? Are they bringing him in as a developmental tackle? Do they view him as a potential guard? Or are they simply looking for another versatile athlete who can provide depth and competition throughout training camp? Right now, nobody outside the building truly knows. And that uncertainty is what makes this signing so interesting. The reality is that training camp roster additions are often less about what a player currently is and more about what coaches believe a player can become. Miami's coaching staff may believe there are traits in Age's game that have not yet been fully developed. Maybe they see untapped potential. Maybe they see technique issues that can be corrected. Maybe they simply want to see how he performs in a more competitive environment surrounded by NFL-level coaching and talent. Whatever the reason, they've now given him another opportunity. And sometimes that's all a player needs. Another element worth discussing is positional flexibility. During his time in the UFL, Age played primarily at right tackle. That's also where he spent much of his college career. However, his NFL experiences tell a slightly different story. When he was with the Raiders, he received work on the interior offensive line, seeing action at both guard spots. That means there may be multiple ways for Miami to evaluate him throughout camp. In today's NFL, versatility matters more than ever. The ability to serve as both a tackle and a guard can dramatically increase a player's value when teams start trimming rosters. A player who can fill multiple roles often has a better chance of surviving final cuts than someone limited to a single position. That's why the next few weeks will be critical. The Dolphins coaching staff now has an opportunity to test him in different situations and determine where he fits best. Of course, fans should also remain realistic. The odds of any late offseason signing making a 53-man roster are typically very low. Every year teams bring in players for competition. Every year dozens of hopefuls arrive at camp. And every year only a handful survive. That's simply the nature of professional football. The competition on Miami's offensive line remains intense, and age will need to impress quickly if he hopes to move up the depth chart. But football has always been a league built on opportunities. Sometimes all it takes is one strong preseason performance, one dominant training camp practice, one injury opening a door, one coaching staff believing in your potential. We've seen countless NFL careers launched from situations that looked far less promising than this. So while expectations should remain reasonable, completely dismissing the signing would also be a mistake. The Dolphins clearly saw enough to offer him a contract, and now it's up to him to prove they were right. But the offensive line discussion doesn't stop there. There's another player generating curiosity inside the organization, and his situation may be even more fascinating. That player is James Esther. Some fans may have forgotten about him since his arrival didn't generate much attention when Miami claimed him off waivers earlier this offseason. However, what makes Esther unique is not where he came from. It's what Miami is trying to turn him into. Throughout his football career, Esther has played on the defensive line. That's the position he knows. That's the position he developed at. That's the position that got him to professional football. Yet Miami appears to have a different vision. Reports from OTAs and minicamp indicated that Esther has been taking reps on the offensive line. Think about that for a moment. A player who spent years learning how to attack offensive linemen is now being asked to become one. It's an incredibly difficult transition. In fact, history shows that very few players have successfully made that move at the professional level. The techniques are different. The mindset is different. The footwork is different. Everything changes. Defensive linemen are taught to react aggressively and attack. Offensive linemen must play with patience, leverage, timing, and precision. Learning those skills takes years. That's why this experiment deserves attention. The Dolphins clearly believe there is enough athletic ability and physical upside to at least explore the possibility. Whether it works remains another question entirely. But this coaching staff has shown a willingness to think creatively. Sometimes those experiments fail. Sometimes they uncover hidden gems. Either way, it's another storyline worth monitoring as training camp approaches. And speaking of training camp, Miami's roster has now reached capacity for the offseason program. That means competition is about to intensify. Every practice rep will matter. Every preseason snap will matter. Every opportunity will matter. For players like A.